This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, it is now 6 p.m. We're going to go into executive session. We will return to this regular session at the end of the executive session. So anybody that wants to stay here and play Cracker Jacks or whatever, please stay. But correct, yeah. Right now, the way our rules are, if we stop early, we can come out and visit with y'all. But the meeting will not start until 7, the formal meeting, if people come in and want to know what's going on. So, and I have a little green question mark right by that, But I think what we're going to do, at least this time, is go to executive session, and if we should come out in 10 minutes, we got 50 minutes to goof off, but I doubt we will. We can probably make it last longer. So everybody, let's go back to the back.
This conference will now be recorded.
Online now, and we will resume the regular session. We need first to ratify the hiring of an interim city secretary. Do I hear anyone to make a motion that way?
I make that motion.
In a second? All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, and then, Josh, I think you had something else to bring along.
Mayor, I have something I'd like to say on the topic of the city administrator. I know the last few executive sessions we've been discussing our city administrator's review, and it is a consensus. We've come to a consensus tonight. You've done an amazing job over the last year, especially with the COVID and the snow power Mageddon, everything going on. So thank you for sticking in there with everybody. Thank you for working with us. Thank you for all your help and continuing to work with us. With that, I would like to make a motion that we approve for discussion in executive session option 1 for her contract.
Okay, do I hear anybody in favor?
Aye.
Anybody against? Okay, we passed unanimously. And we're ready to move on.
Thank you, Cynthia.
To the invocation, and I can't see because I'm short. There you are. Okay. We have with us the minister of our new Antioch Baptist Church that's on Main Street here in Rome. And Reverend Heath, we are glad to have y'all.
Will join me in an attitude of prayer. Dear Lord, we're so thankful and so honored to be able to gather here tonight, and I pray that you'll please us just hear our gratitude and our thanks for what you've done in our lives. And I pray that you'll please us be with this meeting tonight, and I pray that you'll please us allow us to come to conclusions and allow us to make decisions that is for the betterment of Rome, Texas. And I pray that you'll please us be with the city council. I pray that you'll please us be with the mayor, and I pray that you'll be with all of our first responders, Father, as we try to go into the next year, Father, and as we plan for the next year. God, I pray that you'll please us, give us safety, Father, and I pray that you'll please us, allow us to have a great rest of the year and allow us to always call to remembrance the things that you bless us with. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Okay, we are now ready for public presentation. Do you have that ready?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Terry Priest. Mr. Priest, you'll have 3 minutes to speak before council, and I'll let you know when you have 30 seconds
That's
remaining.
fine. Thank you. My name is Terry Priest. I live at 216 Cheyenne Trail North here in Rome. Council members, mayor, city staff, and Rome citizens. I stand before you with a heavy heart today. The bond election to improve many areas of Rome was voted down on November 2nd. I wish to read a part of the opinion of Richard Green, editor of the Wise County Messenger, that he printed on November the 5th. I think it sums up most of my thoughts better than I could have written them down. And this was the article from the paper. I'm not going to read the whole thing, just a part about Rome. In Rome, voters once again turned down the idea of financing the renovation of the former school building into a city complex, along with a street improvement item and a park at Bywell. With the definitive answer from the voters, it should be time for the city to make the tough decision to raise the boarded up and dilapidated school that is now a blight. The cleared land could be used for modular buildings to serve as city offices and a police department rather than rented space or out-of-code buildings. This may sound harsh, but the school will never be in better condition, and it will only cost more in the future. Actually, any project to improve city facilities will only be more expensive with the construction costs and rising interest rates. For a city that will have several other infrastructure needs as Fort Worth creeps closer, this was a missed window of opportunity. He titled that "Results Present Missed Opportunity, Rome Faces Tough Decision on the School." Now, I'm not saying we should demolish the school tomorrow and put up modular buildings, but that is one idea. What I am saying is the old school is a liability to the city if we cannot renovate it. And we can't renovate it without a sizable funding effort. The citizens against the bond voted it down. That tells me two things. Either the cost was too great, or our worn out buildings, bad roads, and lack of parks were not needed. If the bond proposal was not a good plan, what other options do we have? I now challenge the City Council and the citizens of Rome to devise another solution for these issues. Thank you.
Thanks, Terry. We now have a written comment from Lisa Wilson that I'll read. Relative to the agenda item for tonight for maintenance of the alleys and easements to be maintained by citizens as seen in proposed ordinance revision 6.03.004, I do not believe it is the responsibility of citizens to maintain property owned by the city. Please reconsider. I also am concerned about the property owners being required to maintain easements. Please reconsider this requirement, especially where the easement maintenance may work a hardship on our citizens. We have always depended on our citizens to maintain their property and keep Rome looking beautiful. Let's do not turn our back on them now. The bond election has come and gone. I'm so happy to see a large turnout, be it pro or con. Citizens stepped forward and made their voice known. Now that the majority of citizens have spoken, please listen to their concerns and be frugal with their tax money and live within our means. Stop overspending. We need to separate the wants and needs. During these trying times, let us do our due diligence to ensure we do not keep hitting the citizens with more costs. Please do not be concerned with your personal agenda or legacy as a council person. Our small city experienced a house fire which displaced a family of 8. The Rome Fire Department responded and other fire departments in the area. The house is uninhabitable. Even though our town seems to be divided on social media, let's all come together to help one another, Rome citizen, in their time of need. I was raised to show respect for everyone, including veterans. It's come to my attention on social media the bashing of veterans, specifically Rome Veterans Group. Not every Rome citizen agrees with that. All veterans deserve respect. The Rome Veterans Group is a wonderful bunch of people who do amazing things for other veterans. Their motto is Veterans Helping Veterans. Please, all Rome citizens, give them the respect they deserve. If you're a veteran in our area, check them out. You may want to join. In conclusion, citizen voices do matter, as apparent in the recent bond election. Many citizens are wanting to make their ideas known. Please schedule a town hall meeting or a workshop to hear from the many citizens and their innovative approaches to our many needs. Thank you for your time, Lisa Ann Wilson. The next speaker is Justin Archer.
Good evening, everyone. Among discussions on social media in support or opposition of the bonds that were going on in this past election cycle, Mr. Easton stated that it wouldn't be secure or feasible to continue to do the elections and hold the meetings here and the same way that we did prior to the pandemic. So I'm curious why that is. And after I got several condescending remarks, I was told to come up here to discuss it. So I'm here.
Thanks, Justin.
The next speaker is Olin Horn. The next speaker is George Basista. Gordon, I'm sorry.
Warren Basista.
Mr. Horn. Thank you. Okay, thank you.
Hi, I'm Gordon Basista. I live in the Ellis Homestead subdivision with my wife Rebecca. I'm here just to address the pretty dramatic increase in the sewage part of our water bill now, and it's just about doubled. My concern is the effect it has on those of us who have a pool. We're going to be, our water usage triples, quadruples in the summertime. We're going to be charged with paying for sewage wastewater that we're not generating because it's just going in the pool. And I've lived in other cities in Tarrant County. What they've done is in the wintertime, they take an average of your water bill from, usually it's like October to May. And then they'll take how much water you actually use. Then they'll remove the highest water bill and the lowest water bill during those 6-7 months and apply that in the summertime so to more accurately charge the resident what they're using for wastewater and not being overcharged for all this water that you're going in the pool, watering your foundation. I wish they would, if the city would look into that and apply that formula to us that have pools in the subdivision. There are quite a few. That's my position on that.
Thank you, sir.
That concludes the speakers that have signed up, Mayor.
Okay. Now we'll move on to the announcements from the mayor and council members. Any council members with something they would like to say?
I'd like to say something.
Okay.
Thank you to the citizens that spoke, and thank you to the gentleman that didn't catch your name for the water. I liked what you said about the highest and lowest formula, because I wasn't aware of that when we spoke about the increase. So thank you, because no, okay. Well, thank you so much. A lot of great, as well as the other citizens that spoke out about the bonds and everything. I'm, quite happy for the citizens who spoke. So, thank you so much.
Anyone else have any comments on the council? Well,
I do.
yes.
Welcome, Leanne.
And what he's saying, Sam, I'll expand on that. Leanne is going to be our interim secretary. Y'all try to find time before you leave tonight to meet her. She'll be working some remotely. She'll show up here occasionally. Her heart is in Muleshoe, Texas. So that's a long way from here, but we're glad to have you. City of Rhome events. Cynthia has typed me more things than I can get to probably. Thursday and Friday, November the 24th and 25th, City Hall will be closed in observance of Thanksgiving. Sunday, December 5, a Christmas celebration will be held by the Rhome United Methodist Church in the Rhome Family Park. Saturday, December the 6th and the 13th, the fire department will have fire rescue Santa signing. And Daryl, I assume y'all are being driving through the neighborhoods, right, on the thing. Tuesday, December the 7th, after we do all this celebration, it's monthly bulk trash pickup. So please mark that on your calendar. We will only have one council meeting in December, and it will be Thursday, December the 9th. And lastly, the Christmas tree lighting will be November the 27th, sponsored by Rhome Veterans at the Veterans Park. So we got a lot of stuff going on. And unfortunately, this past weekend, we had a family lose their home in Crown Point to a fire. These guys showed up and helped tremendously, but they are displaced. And Ashley Majors and I have tried, since Ashley's a friend of theirs, we've tried to get help for them in various ways, and other people are doing the same thing. But it is not a city function that we're doing this for. It's considered neighbors helping neighbors on the thing. Now we'll move on to the consent agenda. And everything here is recommended for approval. Discussion and necessary action on end-of-year budget amendments. Cynthia?
Mayor, this is the consent agenda, so unless somebody wants to pull it, they would approve the consent agenda as a whole.
Okay, so you don't want to, does anybody have any questions on the budget amendments? Okay, we need to vote on that. Do we accept the budget amendments? Do I have?
Go ahead and make a motion in a second.
I make a motion to accept the consent agenda.
And second, all in favor? Unanimous passage. Second item on the consent agenda is to accept the resignation of Debbie Coleman from the Parks and Recreation Board. We did it. We went the whole thing. I don't know. We didn't go into the library contract. We need to pick the library contract also.
So on the consent agenda, Mayor, all of those items would be considered all in one motion with 1 second.
Okay, we've been voting on them individually, so we want to consider it. Has anybody got anything else to take away if I mess this one up?
The only other thing I'd like to add on the consent agenda is just thank you, Ms. Kuhleman, for your hard work and dedication to the Parks and Rec Board. I'm sure you'll be missed.
And I agree with him on that.
Agreed.
Yeah. So, okay, we're going to move on to the monthly staff reports and minutes. And what we're doing from now on is one of the departments will be highlighted. This time, Fire and Rescue is the lucky guy. So, Daryl, you want to talk about whatever?
Mayor, Council, thank you for letting me speak. I was asked to pick out something that I would like to talk about. So tonight, I thought it would be a good time, since we have approval, to talk about the ISO rating. And then if you have any questions at the end, I'll be glad to answer any of your questions. As all of y'all pretty much know, the ISO is Insurance Service Office. And basically what they do is they do a study of your department and your city, and they come up with a classification, what they call a public protection classification. We started back in January, and we finally finished up our end of the paperwork about July. And so they took that paperwork back with them, came up with all their calculations. And then one thing that was a little bit different, I feel like this is like feedback, but you take care of that, Sean?
Well, we do want to hear you on the recording.
Yes. Oh, I know. I never thought I'd have to use a microphone, but I know my guys know I don't need a microphone when I'm on scene somewhere. I'm surprised I even have a voice left after this weekend. We mentioned the fire in Rome. We had, since Thursday, we've had 6 total structure fires in Rome and Boyd. So it's been a busy weekend.
We also had some animals too, didn't you?
Yes.
I think so.
I'll go ahead and continue on. It sounds a lot better, Sean, on my end. Could be I'm just getting old and hearing's going. Basically, what they do is, again, they come up with a classification number, and that number is given to the insurance companies. Some of those companies don't use it, but a lot of those companies, especially your smaller insurance companies, look at those ratings to be able to give you pricing on insurance for your home and stuff. To give you an idea, in this rating system, there's 3 main categories, but there's 4 total. One of them's needed fire flows, so they would look at a building for the size of the building and how much fire flow would be needed to put that fire out. The other 3 main categories are emergency communications, fire department, and water supply. And then they base the grades off of that. There's a lot of calculations. This is like a 34-page document. Y'all should have access to it here. It actually goes in effect February the 1st, 2022, and that'll be available for y'all to look at. To give you an idea, we are considered a 4/4X. And basically what that means is a 4 is the city limits, and we have, if you're located within 1,000 feet of a fire hydrant or within 5 miles of a fire station, we're classified as a 4. And that's also based off of the numbers that they came up with, the ratings based off of those 4 categories I talked about. Now, as far as outside the city limits, we're considered a 4X, which means there's not a hydrant within 1,000 feet, but you still live within 5 miles from a fire station. So those are the things we have to look at too when we're looking at relocation or having to add fire stations. We have to look at how those circles overlap each other and how it overlaps our city limits and our county or our jurisdiction, ETJ. To kind of give you an idea, since we're a number 4, it's on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being the best, 10 being not recommended and not hitting requirements. There's, in the state of Texas, from 5 to 10, there's 1,787 fire departments. In the class 4, there's only 385. And then from class 1 to 3, there's only 672. So us having a class 4 is a good thing for our citizens and for the city. Yes.
What is the rating for, say, Boyd?
If I'm not mistaken, I don't want to jump out to, I don't think it's a 4. I know Newark just went to a 4, but the last I'd heard, and this is just what I've heard, was Boyd was still at a 6.
And how long have we been at a 4?
We've actually been at a 4 since 2012 for sure. And then there was some paperwork before then that it's not all there. That looks like we might even been there a little bit sooner.
And say like New Fairview, who doesn't have a fire department.
Yes.
They've got East Wise, the ESD.
Yes.
What's their rating?
That I'm not sure on that.
Okay, and if Rome didn't have a fire department?
Our rating would be at least an 8 at the very minimum, and it would probably be a 10, which would be not certified.
And any ideas to what impact that would be to everyone's homeowners insurance?
It'd be a huge impact. There's hard to put a dollar on it because every insurance company charges different fee percentages based off some of this. And again, some don't even use this, but the majority of your insurance companies do, but I can't give you an exact dollar figure. The word out there a lot of times you hear is 2% and 3% for each number you jump.
Uh-huh.
But at this time, I couldn't give you an exact number, but it is a savings.
Thank you, sir.
Uh-huh. To kind of give you an idea on one of the classifications is water. We did really well in water. The water included, get back to my page, I jumped too many pages. Supply system. We rated good on our supply system. Hydrant checking and hydrant inspection and flow testing, we were 100% on both of those categories. So we did real well on the water aspect of it. And basically the water aspect of it is if we're able to get, per se, over 2,200 gallons per minute at any given time, to be able to sustain that over a major period like 20 minutes, if we would be able to sustain a big fire and things like that. As far as the other classification would be like the fire department did real well as far as credit for engine companies. We were 100%. Credit for pump capacity for our engines, we're 100%. The thing that hurt us a little bit compared to the past, which helped them stay at a 4, it kept us at a 4 and not pushed us to a 3, and that was not having a ladder company as far as a ladder truck. But on the other hand, there's some other things that we can look at point-wise, and I'll get with Sean, and we're going to bring up about a 2-year plan to look at and try to get some numbers. Because as much as being a fire chief, I'd love to say, hey, I need a ladder truck tomorrow. We don't have the facilities, but that is a place where we can make up points in the futures on ladder. The other 2 biggest things that didn't help us on points-wise was company personnel. And the reason why the company personnel, I'll give you an idea, the maximum points were 15, and the total we got was 3.30. And the reason why on the company personnel is if you have volunteers, just say you had 15 volunteers, they divide it by 3. Whereas if you had 15 paid firefighters, you get credit for 15 paid firefighters. If you have 15 volunteers, they divide it by 3, you get credit for 5. And that's based off of how long it would take them to get to the station and all that, so that's why they divide by 3. So those are things that we've been working on with the shift pay and stuff like that. Those are going to get us those next steps that we'll be able to increase some numbers. Credit for training, again, it goes back to the shift and the paid. The biggest thing we got knocked off for is we can't train our guys 16 hours a month because we're volunteers. The 16-hour a month maximum full credit is because those guys work shift and they get paid to be there 24/7, so they're required to do so many hours while they're on shift. So they're able to make that. So those are things we're working on. Y'all have seen my plans. I've worked with y'all on some of the plans. So those are things we'll be able to work on. Again, what I'd like to do is, and I'll start wrapping this up, but what I'd like to do is get with Sean. We'll come up with about a 2-year plan, because this is something that when we feel like we can get ready to have it reevaluated, I think in the next couple of years we could easily be at a 3. We kind of give you an idea. Every 10 points is a number. So 0 to 9 is a 10, and so forth. Well, we were at almost 67 points, so we're only 3 points off from a 3 by saving the city some insurance money. So to come up with 3 points with the information you'll see in the packet, it's pretty sustainable easily in 2 years. But what we'd like to do is maybe even, if that's something we can even push for, a 2. Again, a lot of that's based off of more of, being more of a paid department, which is still down the road. But there are some things I think we can at least get to a 3 and have that 2-year plan and have it recalculated 2 years. See if I got anything else. Any questions y'all have? I know that was kind of a synopsis real quick. But
Daryl, did they do that every 2 years? What's your frequency?
no, ma'am. They used to do it every 10 years. Now they recommend every 5 years. Okay. But you can do it as often as you want. We could do it in 2 years, like I said, if that's our plan, 3 years. I was under the impression for a long time that you would never go backwards. But I think Highland Village and Denton actually went backwards. So they can put you back. Because I was always told if they get halfway through your classification and you're going to go backwards, they'll stop. But I was told that was not correct information. As Highland Village found that out, they actually put them backwards, so it cost them more in insurance. So.
What is your goal year-wise to be a paid fire department?
Well, I think we have to be careful and call it a paid department. I don't know if Rhome will ever actually be a full paid department. I think we'll be a combination department for many years. You'll see in my budget proposals and things like that over the next 4 or 5 years, it actually is looking at one paid firefighter for next year along with the shifts, right, and then grow on that. But we're going to base it off of growth and things like that. So okay. That's why I'm thinking a 2-year plan for ISO to get us to a 3. I actually really think I could pull off a 3 a lot sooner, but I want to be careful and make sure that the number's there, because a lot of it is based off of prevention. And we created that prevention department last year, and we really grew on it. And we have our community risk reduction that's allowed us to really get some good points. We actually got extra credit for our community risk reduction. So I think we're real close, and we could push to get that 3, but we'll give it 2 years and go from there. Any other questions?
This one's a little off topic. I noticed we have several firefighters wearing their Class Bs.
Yes.
These are new?
Yes.
Can we get any modeling done?
Sure. This is actually these are actually our uniforms now that we're going on calls with. The only difference in me is I wouldn't wear white on a call. I wear blue on a call. But this is uniforms that we're kind of making some of the other fire departments a little mad at us.
I think they look great.
But this is something we want to show up. These guys are volunteers, but we're proud of what we do, and we're proud of the community we serve. And we want the citizens to know that whenever we show up. And this is what the shift crews have to wear. So if they're getting paid shift, they have to wear this. But we wear it on Monday nights because the guys, feel good, look good, do good. So it's just something that the guys wanted to take pride in. Now, I'm not going to say somebody's not going to show up in blue jeans, because we still volunteers. And if I'm a house away from somebody and I'm in blue jeans, it's not going to change my mind to help somebody out. But we're proud of Rhome, and we want Rhome to be proud of us. And so that's something that we can offer.
Well, I'm just always amazed at the volunteer group that gets up at 3 o'clock in the morning. I mean, alarm goes off, 3 o'clock in the morning, you go save somebody's life. Yeah. Put their house out, save their pets. Thank you.
It's bigger than us. We're here for the community. Any other questions?
Thank you so much. We have other departments on here. Does anybody else want to speak from the department or say anything about their departments? So evidently not. So we're going to move on to the canvassing. And Cynthia, I'll let you carry that one. And canvassing. Yeah.
You have the ordinance in front of you, and you have the official results from Wise County. So I will read through those. For Proposition A, you had 100 for, 100 against, and 295 cast votes. Absentee voting ballots cast were 4. Early voting ballots cast were 162. Election day voting ballots cast were 131. And again, the total ballots cast were 297. We have 1,122 registered voters, so that equals a turnout percentage of about 26.47%. And that was for Proposition A. Proposition B, and A was the City Services Campus. Proposition B was for the streets. You had 88 for, you had 209 against. Cast votes total was 297. Absentee voting ballots were 4. Early voting ballots cast 162. Election day voting ballots cast 131. Total ballots cast 297. Registered voters didn't change. Proposition C was for a park facility in Bywell. You had 98 for, you had 198 against, cast votes were 296, absentee voting ballots cast were 4, early voting ballots cast were 162, election day voting ballots cast 131, and the total ballots cast were 297. So we will need a motion.
I so move that we accept those results.
It wasn't in my packet, but okay.
I second.
I'm just happy it didn't. But it wasn't in my packet.
Okay. I'm not sure how that happened. Was it in yours?
Yeah. Do we have a second to Michelle has seconded? We'll now call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? And let me add one thing, just kind of brag about Rome. We had more votes per 25% or something like that of our registered voters, was the largest turnout per capita in Wise County. So I think it was but we're getting there. We're getting people that respond. Okay, we'll move on now to the public hearing. Discussion and necessary action regarding a change in the current zoning of residential to retail properties being legally described as acres .340 Lot 1, PT2, Block A, subdivision Grandview Addition, otherwise known as 300 South Main Street. Secondly, legal acres .323, Lot 2, and PT3, Block A, subdivision Grandview Addition, otherwise known as 330 South Main Street, Rome. Acres .327, Lot PTS, Block A, subdivision Grandview Addition, otherwise known as 125 Rome, Texas. This is a public hearing. Do you have any comments for the zoning?
No, ma'am, no one's signed up to speak on the zoning.
Okay, is anybody here want to speak on the zoning?
Just
Joanne,
for the
this is
record,
Shirley
Mayor, would you
Mize.
go ahead and note the time that the public hearing was open?
Okay, and that was
7:40 p.m.
7:40.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Joanne, can you hear me? Hello?
Sure.
Yeah. We can, if you would identify yourself with your name and your address. Are you wanting to speak on the public hearing?
I am. This is Shirley Mize. I live at 170 Russell. My concern or question to the council and to the P&Z is how can you hold a public hearing on rezoning property that you have not put notification at the location of the zoning change? And I oppose this. Can you answer that?
I'm sorry,
This is a public hearing. You have an opportunity to make your comments, but it's not a question and answer session. So if you have any other comments, go ahead and make those comments.
Well, my comment is that if you did not post the zoning change where it's made to the public, how can you go ahead? I'm asking that question because I don't think you should move forward with passing this until it's done correctly. You have rules.
And you said you do oppose this, am I correct?
That is correct. I think it needs to be done right.
I'm sorry, I did not understand that last comment.
I think if you're doing it, I think it needs to be done properly, right to your ordinances.
Okay, we will take that under consideration, but this is a public hearing. Do we have anybody else that wants to speak about the zoning? Anyone else? Okay, we are going to move on to regular agenda. We're back with our regular agenda at 7:43 p.m. on November the 15th, 2021. The first item is L, discussion and any necessary action regarding a change in the current zoning of residential to retail of properties being legally described as, and it's the same properties that we just read specific information about. Do we have any discussion on this at all? Do I hear a motion?
Hold on, I'm going to speak one. Sorry.
Oh, okay, go for it.
So much going on. Sorry. Okay. Sorry. On that one, section 221.006, P&Z on November 1st, it was put in the paper on 10/22, which was only 9 days. It needs to be, Carvin, correct me if I'm wrong, doesn't it need to be 30 days prior from P&Z to, the dates were wrong. So you can correct me when I was looking at the ordinances, and therefore.
I've evaluated this already, and my opinion is it has met the requirements of the city's ordinance and state law.
Okay. My next thing is there is no rezoning signs that are on Main Street that shows it's being rezoned. So there's no signs that are put in front of the houses. I pass by there every day.
As I've indicated, I have reviewed the city's ordinances and the state statute, and we have met the requirements of both.
Okay, so we don't have to put any signs like we have at any of the other businesses. We haven't looked at any ordinances to say if it's going to serve alcohol, if it's going to, anything retail, if it's going to anything, it's to there, like we have it going up for QT to, nothing for the other, like homeowners, nothing to right there needs to be rezoned. Nothing, we don't have to have any sign that says it's going to be rezoned retail.
If we need to go into executive session, I can give you legal advice in executive session, but I have reviewed the city's ordinances and I've reviewed the state statutes, and we have met the requirements of both.
Okay, do we have any further discussion? Do I hear a motion to accept this zoning change?
I move that we accept the zoning change.
And do I hear a second?
I second.
Michelle seconded. Okay, we have 3 different properties, and we'll call for a vote for all of them combined. So let's have a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries unanimously. We're moving on now to item M, discussion and any necessary action regarding an ordinance pertaining to the maintenance of right-of-ways, easements, and alleys. Sean, you get to take this one.
I'm not being IT either. All right, Mayor, Council, we're bringing forth an updated ordinance to you for the amending Chapter 6 of Health and Sanitation, Article 6.03. I put a little PowerPoint together. It's a brief PowerPoint to show the areas that are concerned. Want to update the ordinance. The current ordinance is outdated, not defined. Also, the council has also directed staff to update and clean up the current ordinances. And this update will bring this ordinance to follow best practices of other city ordinances throughout Texas. Part of the proposed amendments of this ordinance includes keeping the drainage ways clear of refuge, garbage, etc., to maintain positive flow. Also, the natural drainage ways of bar ditches is the responsibility of the owner. Property subject to drainage easements is the responsibility of the owner. Anybody have any questions so far? Yes, sir.
I've observed a place over in Crown Point, and I'm sure there are other places where we have drainage. Um, I've s- Michael, I can't remember the man's last name, but he is. Um, he lives at the corner of Troxel and Crown, and there is a very large ditch that comes through Crown Point, and it winds through and comes out on. So you need to lean forward. Comes out on Sterling, there at Moore's house. Okay, I know that Michael keeps his end of it fairly clean. I know Moore's always kept their end of it very clean. Um, but I've seen quite a bit of garbage at times build up in there. I understand that when it doesn't get mowed, right, that you end up with a significant number of rats and snakes, and I think we're starting to get into some type of an issue with, is it draining? Because look at your key drainage ways, clear refuse, garbage, right, causes water flow. I think we could be getting into a public health and safety issue. Now, I've spoken with our city administrator, and she's very clear that, well, the owner owns the property.
Yes, sir. And this is where I'm getting to with some of the changes and what other cities are doing or have been doing.
Well, should I wait for my
If you want to, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I can show you pictures and other ordinances of what other cities are doing or have been doing. And so it's not something that we just came up with. It's like I said, we're following best practices of what other cities, small and large cities, in and out our area throughout Texas. And so, but I'll show you, and we also have a map of that location which just clearly shows those people's property. And so it's part of the, it's their property.
Well, then I'll wait for you to go a little further and discuss it a little more later.
Yeah, I would recommend, getting through the PowerPoint because he's got a lot of picture. He's going to go over some of the words, but he's got a lot of pictures too, and that's where probably the questions can be answered.
I can. Is it in the?
It wasn't in the packet.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry.
In the packet? Okay, well, it wasn't in the packet.
Okay.
We can get you guys a copy.
Okay. All right. Next slide. Okay. Also, responsibility of keeping weeds, and this is, even their yard. Our current ordinance has that, but some areas that have failed to be mentioned was also responsible of keeping free of tree limbs and branches trimmed back from streets and alleys and sidewalks, and also maintain grass to the edge of pavement. Next slide is also, and this is one of the wordings in the ordinance, and it says it shall be unlawful for an owner, occupant, or person in control of premises adjoining any property contiguous to the public right-of-way, easement, drainage way within the corporate limits of the city to allow any vegetation to grow or dirt to encroach upon the surface of any portion of an improved right-of-way, sidewalk, curb line, or edge of pavement between roadways and curb lines. We do have issues where some people don't maintain the where sidewalks are, they on edge, or grass is growing over the curb lines. I guess there's some confusion that that's not their responsibility to maintain. I do believe if you go to any city in the state of Texas, you're responsible for all the way to the edge of pavement, especially to the curbs and stuff like that. That'll help improve the drainage. People allow grass to grow over the curb onto the curb line and the gutter line, which stops that flow, which then occurs the buildup of dirt and stuff on the streets. Okay, I was going to go some definitions on what right-of-ways and easements are. Again, the definition of right-of-way is the legal right passage of another one on a person's ground. Also, the area over which the right-of-way exists, a strip of land over which a public road, built over a public road, the land occupied by the railroad, especially in the main line, and then the use for public utilities. I know many people have seen where we've had currently a utility company putting in fiber optics. They work within the right-of-way. It's still considered the y'all's yard. However, they have the legal right within that right-of-way to put those fiber optics, or a utility, a gas company can come in there. It's still legally y'all's yard, but there is a right to be within that location to work in there. Easements. Same way, an easement is defined as a right, privilege, or advantage of the real owner's property, existing district for the ownership of land. In other words, easement consists of interest or estate in real property that does not constitute full ownership. Most commonly, an easement entails the right of a person or public to use the land of another in certain manners. And I'm going to break down the easement definition. There is, again, some confusion of what an easement is. An easement, the city does not specifically own the land of an easement. They or a public utility or whoever is in that easement. There are some private easements that can be between individuals or an entity that is for specific use, but it's only for the pipe that's underneath the ground the city is responsible for, technically. Now, the city can do some things in there to make sure they can access that location, but the normal maintenance of an easement is that property owner, because that property owner still owns that land. The city is just there. The city or the gas company or any public utility, you know, you've seen Encore trim back trees off power lines. That is a utility easement. They have the right to keep their easement clear. It's also still the property of homeowner's property to maintain the easement too, to keep that clear. As the entity doesn't own the land, the person still owns the land. The city or the entity has the right to keep that area clean so they can access that property. So a drainage easement is a means of right granted by a landowner, so the landowner still owns the land, to guarantee the allowed the use of private land for stormwater management purposes, for the purpose of control, preserving, and providing the flow of stormwater. So, again, even though there's an easement there, the property owner still owns the land. The property owner is still responsible for maintaining that land. They just gave the legal right for that water flow to go through that land. Again, utility easement. This is a means for interest of the land granted for the public in general, or private or public utility corporation, or political subdivision of the state for installing or maintaining utilities across, under, or over private land, together with the right to enter thereof, with machinery, vehicles necessary for the maintenance of said utilities. Again, as I don't know if y'all are seeing where trees look like, in some homeowners where older trees look like bees, where the electric companies come through there and cleaned out those trees to remove it. They have the necessary right, because it's a public health issue of keeping those power lines clear from the trees. That's what it's talking about. The utility has the right to be in there to make sure they can access the thing, but the property owner is still responsible for their property. Public utility easement. The public utility easement, again, is the easement that allows utilities the right to use, access specific areas of another one's property for construction, maintenance, maintaining gas, electric, telecommunications, fiber optics, water, sewer lines, means and space upon, above, along, across, over, and under an easement for the construction, reconstruction, operating, maintaining, inspection, and repairing of facilities. Again, if the city has a sewer easement through somebody's yard, it's still that person's yard. But however, we have to have the capability to go in there to maintain that sewer line, to make sure there's positive flow. If it's broken down, we have to make sure that we have a capability to get in there to repair it. Private easement. Private easement is or other real property right that is only for the benefit of the grantor or grantee and other successors assigned, a non-possessing interest held by one party in the land, another whereby the party is accorded partial use of such land. I'll give you an example. If you have let's say a property north of town, they're within the city limits, however, they don't have access to water and sewer, but their neighbor does, and the only way to access that water and sewer, they can those two private owners can grant, or that one property owner can grant a private easement to that other owner to get utilities through there for that. So that would be a private easement between two individuals to access that, or an access easement. If they can't have a roadway, they can have a private easement, access easement to that property. And it's only specific for that individual and whatever that legal document is. Alleyways. Alleyways is the means of a private or public passageway or a way located in a municipality in which is less than the usual width of the street, may be open to but not designed primarily for general vehicle traffic. Intersections are open to the street, is a primary use for ingress or egress or the convenience of two or more owners of a abutting property. Okay. I'm going to be getting into some examples. I got a few more slides, sorry. Okay, let me back up. So some people want to know some of the research we did. These cities right here, Denton, New Bronzeville, Southlake, Fort Worth, Cedar Hill, Bridgeport, Hazlet, McKinney, Dallas, and Austin. They all have similar ordinances or parts of ordinances that we reviewed and took part of it. So we just didn't come out of thin air. We pervade a lot of other cities, large, small, within our county, just right outside our county, and neighboring areas. There's some of the others were very vague, or they just say you just got to mow your grass at 12 inches. It's not defined. And again, they haven't updated some of these towns haven't updated their ordinances as long as we have. And so I was looking for ordinances that were updated and not outdated and stuff like that. And so we want to take a larger cities, smaller cities. Southlake, 35 years ago or longer than that, we're where we are right now, where everything's coming into us, and we're going to be growing here pretty soon, just like Southlake. And so, okay, here's Southlake's ordinance for their easements. So drainage easements with surface structures. So I'll show you a picture of a surface structure here in a minute. The surface structure, when you talk about surface structure, it's actually the road and the concrete culvert that's on that road, not your private driveway culvert. It's actually the main drainage piping is what a surface structure is. So it shall be responsible of the city to maintain all surface structures. Again, it's that right of ways, that main drainage area of all easements. And the landowner shall maintain all portions of the drainage easements which are not improved. That's all the grass. That's, everything like you're talking about in Crown Point. It's not improved. There's no drainage piping there. We didn't go back there and concrete it or anything like that. So it's unimproved in accordance with the required set forth in this paragraph A above. And it slows down the flow. Yes, it limits erosion. Yes. The city put them, there's the developer put them there from my understanding. Yeah. That'd be, yeah, okay. For the improvement part. Yeah. We will maintain the improvement of the rocks to maintain the erosion. The normal maintenance of the grass is still the property owner. So we can still go and maintain the rocks to keep the erosion down. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So you're saying you've got to maintain the grass to get your improvement, prevents you from being able to get a lot of it.
Yeah, the city's going to be responsible for the improvements, but we're not going to be responsible for the underlying property, for the underlying grass or other vegetation that grows.
The city has included the next homeowners responsible for the owner to maintain. Because now they got to maintain and have to follow the property. Right? That's why the last time you start looking at that drainage all the way from Knoxville over back to Sterling. That's quite a bit. There's lots of food there. And this is what I talked
Well, the question of improvements may actually be a historical thing that we need to look at. We're going to have to determine some factual dates and times and things like that I don't think Sean was contemplating for tonight's presentation. So, I mean, I can go back and look and make some determinations and make some rulings on whether or not they constitute improvements or whether or not that was just the way that drainage easement was from the beginning. So we'll just have to look at some of that.
Is your mic on? Sorry. Sam, make sure you're
Okay,
using your mic.
so what prevents the property owner from going down there with something like Roundup, pouring it in the drainage, to get the grass out, and that is a drainage area rolling down to somebody else's property? I mean, are there restrictions to how they can maintain that are
There are some
health and
chemicals that
safety?
you can use in aquatic areas, and that's something that the homeowner would have to talk to a landscape company or another company to acquire the proper chemicals to spray in a drainage area.
Okay.
I think what Elaine is saying, though, would they know that, or would you go spray Roundup after dark?
I'm not telling anybody to spray
I
Roundup
did
or any
not say
chemicals. I'm
that.
saying is that there's private property and access, he's going to have to make a determination. But again, this is private property, trying to get on somebody's private property, because there's only certain areas that legally we can do in some areas. And so, I mean, that's something that, like the Carvin said, he's going to kind of look at, see what it is. Again, us accessing private property above and beyond making positive drainage.
John,
Yeah.
Fundamentally, I agree with you.
Yeah. I know what you're on.
I own the property.
Yeah.
There's an easement all the way around my property. We mow it. We maintain it. We edge. Okay? And I think in general, right, that if you own it, take care of it. Okay? But yet I'm looking at this one case, okay, as kind of a exception. Yeah, I mean, because yes, I know that the homeowners on both sides of the goes, and Ashley's now got a picture of that entire.
I do have.
Okay.
I'm jumping ahead, but we'll go. So you can see where this is. So you can see where everybody's property. So this is the easement right through here, but you can see where everybody's property goes to the center of that drainage line. Again, according to other practices in other cities and stuff like that, this is people's property, and technically, if there is like a stoppage, we might be able to free that stoppage because it becomes a public health and flooding issue. But a normal maintenance and weeding against somebody's fences, or behind their property on their fence and all that stuff, and then getting equipment back there, and then maybe doing some damage, that's where we have to get some legal advice, because now we're putting city personnel on private property. And so this is where we get into legal rights, and a rock flying through somebody's house, or an employee gets hurt on private property. This is where we have to get more clarification.
Sam's talking about this.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the address that he's talking about. Is
I
this
know.
right here? Okay.
Yeah,
I
I work with Michael.
No, but to tell the other council members, this is what
Michael is
Sam's
right here.
speaking about. Is this one? So.
Other side of the red line.
Yeah, right here. Yeah.
Right, but nobody else knows. This is what Sam is talking about. So,
And again, yes, ma'am.
I would just like to say that as far as easements are concerned, when somebody buys a piece of property, they have a plat of that property, and it shows exactly where your property lines are. And so when you sign the deed and pay the money, you have taken responsibility for all of the property that you just bought, including the bottom of a drainage area. And so there is a responsibility in my mind that you need to know what you're buying. You need to look it over And of course, legally, that is the interpretation. But we do sometimes get into situations where it's far more than what we thought it was going to be. Or maybe we make the assumption that the city's going to come in and take care of that. And so there's got to be some point other than just health and safety. There's got to be some point. What is realistic? We can talk about the law all we want to, and I certainly do understand that when you buy the property, you need to know what those property lines are. You need to know what an easement is, what its purpose is, what it's going to be used for, et cetera, et cetera. That's our responsibility as buyers. And but at the same time, where is the point where we can get in the real world that it needs to be taken care of, but it's not something a regular property owner can do?
And that's where legal is going to come in, because again, for me and my standpoint, or for us, is that if I put a city employee on somebody's private property and somebody gets hurt or they damage that private property, it gets, then we get into lawsuits or whatever.
Are there some kind, is there possibly a release that you can get the property owner to sign before they would come on?
Yeah, well, there is, but then how many people are going to sign it? Are we going to do it in one specific area, or are we going to do it throughout the whole city, and then we maintain everybody's property? And that's where we get into the hairs, what do we do and don't maintain?
Buy wells give a lot on buy wells. So then I'm just saying, because buy wells upset as well. I mean, then you look at me, because my whole yard is an easement. So then that's my next question, because
remember easements are still the property owner's responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the whole thing, is that people forget the easement is their responsibility. Same way the right of way.
Right, and the city's responsibility is to maintain positive. The city's responsibility is to maintain positive drainage, even if it's in that private drainage area. You were talking about getting in, and I know you know this, Councilmember Priest. We would have to get rights of entry signed if we're going to go on to somebody's private property and do something for the public benefit, like maintaining positive drainage flow. But the other thing on all the legal ramifications of liability and things like that is, the cost of maintaining people's backyard. I do understand that, the rocks are there and that presents a hardship, but they're there for a reason. So I was not here, but I would venture to say that, we require developers to do drainage studies, and if it's appropriate, then they would have to put down riprap, which is what those rocks are, to slow that velocity of water coming through in a 100-year floodplain. So, those are all things. I know I was sitting here, I have a conversation with Carvin, and an improvement for positive drainage flow and for a drainage purpose. I don't know if that's necessarily an improvement, but maybe it is. But it was done more than likely when it was developed.
All right. Let me go on to So the concerns about bar ditches and culverts, which again is also what you're talking about in Bywell. This is South Lake and also many other cities throughout Texas, even Fort Worth and surrounding cities. Although these items are typically found in the right of way dedicated to the city, the maintenance of these shall be the responsibility of the individual landowner. This shall include periodic removing of underbrush, periodic rough mowing, removal of trash and debris, general upkeep of the bar ditch or culvert to maintain positive flow of stormwater within the bar ditch or culvert. Maintenance shall also include periodic cleaning of the culvert to remove all sediments or other hindrances of the flow of water. Culvert shall be replaced by the owner should the infrastructure fail if the culvert potentially impedes the flow of water. This is also on the South Lake's website. It's a Q&A that they have on their website for their residents. It says, what is residents responsible? Where residents drainage related responsibilities per city storm drain policy. It's the property owner responsible to routinely maintain all creeks, streams, natural drainage ways on their property. This includes periodic removing of fallen trees, limbs, underbrush, periodic rough mowing, removal of trash, debris, and general upkeep and maintenance of positive flow of stormwater within the drainage ways or easements. Bar ditches and culverts maintenance is also responsibility of the property owner, despite typically being located in the right of way dedicated to the city. Required maintenance includes periodic removing underbrush, rough mowing, removal of trash and debris, general upkeep of bar ditch culverts to maintain positive flow, periodic cleaning of the culvert. That's the inside and around the culvert, and to remove all sediments that would hinder the flow, and the culvert shall be replaced by the property owner should the structure fail. This is City of Fort Worth floodplain and drainage maintenance. Existing creeks, streams, drainage that traverse along across portions of this addition will remain obstructed at all times, will be maintained by the individual lot owners whose lots traverse by or adjacent to the drainage way. The City of Fort Worth will not be responsible for the maintenance, erosion control, or the operation of said drainage ways. Property owner shall keep the adjacent drainage ways traversing their property clean and free of debris, silt, or other substances which would result in unsanitary conditions. And the city shall have a right to enter for the purpose of inspection and inspecting the maintenance work by the property owner. The drainage ways are occasionally subject to stormwater overflow and or bank erosion that cannot be defined. The City of Fort Worth shall not be liable for any damages resulting from the occurrence of those phenomenons, nor the failure of the structures within the drainage ways. The drainage way crossing each lot is contained within the floodplain easement line are shown, and that's on that flag. Again, and then now we're moving to alleyways. The use of alleyways. Again, an alley is improved or maintained for public use may be improved and used pursuant to the private rights access held by the owners of the abutting property. Under these terms and conditions provided in this section, and then the section is the non-liable of the city within the respect of the alleyway used or to be used for the private rights access. The city shall have no liability for maintaining of alleyways, patrol the alleyways, drainage, or stormwater other than this or other surface runoff such as alleys onto abutting properties. What we do have some alleys, and a lot of these alleys are being used. And what this causes is that people are using it for their private purposes, as to get to their access as parking lots, and so people are now maintaining a lot of these alleyways as their own private use. And then we'll get to some pictures of showing examples of some of these areas. Okay, this is Elm Street, so we're going to talk about the alleyway on Elm Street. It's kind of hard to see. This is now from Wise County Appraisal District. This is Elm Street. This is West Second, and this is School Road right here. I can also show you we'll see some right of ways and all that stuff too. But this picture right here I'm taking. Okay, I'm sitting right here. I'm taking a picture this way. As you can see, we don't have access to this alleyway. This alleyway, and I went to Google Maps, and in 2012, this fence was there also on Google Maps. So this is the alleyway, and so this alleyway would be something difficult for the city to maintain since we don't have access to it. People have parked vehicles back in there. People have placed sheds. This is some of the areas that we found that people again now begin using alleyways as private and a continuous part of the property, and that becomes their responsibility to maintain. Same way with the driveways right here. You can see this fence has been placed. Not only, you can see that this is the outline of somebody's property. This is technically a right-of-way right here. People have encompassed on the right-of-way, same way the alleyway. It becomes their responsibility to maintain those areas because they're using it for private, for personal use. Okay, this is a Russell alleyway. This is Russell Street right through here. Russell Street right here. This is Old Mill, and this is an alleyway. Technically, the right-of-way, or the alleyway, is supposed to go right through here. However, over the years, somebody put a driveway right here, and they just, then on their own, who have been using this as a private access to rear properties, have now made this alleyway onto somebody else's property. So again, now this becomes private use because they're using it for private, private use. And this is outlined. You guys also see this driveway right here. This is technically a complete right of way right here. Somebody's got a driveway right here in our right of way. And so it's going to be like, again, hard do we maintain right of ways or mow right of ways or alleyways when people are now begin to put structures or divert, driveways, cars. And this is that picture. So if you can follow that picture or these telephone poles, usually the alleyways follow the easement. If right here, you can see how this road comes out here. Okay, alleyways are normally straight. This alleyway technically would go right through here. So if we're supposed to maintain an alleyway, do we take away people's driveways? And so again, people now are using this, and alleyways are only supposed to be used periodically. They're not supposed to be a constant use. It's periodically to access the rear of your property. People are using this as day-to-day access. It's not thoroughfare. Again, this is the Russell Street alleyway. Again, this is a picture from the Wise County Appraisal District. You actually see the shaded area. This is technically what they show as the right-of-way. You can see the various different right-of-ways, and so we also going to talk about right-of-ways around this one house. This is the house that we're talking about. We have a complete right-of-way technically around this whole house. So do we mow all the way up against somebody's house all the way around their house, or so when we start talking about right-of-ways, and then no right-of-way is technically defined because it's not a straight line. This is a pie-shaped right-of-way. This right-of-way comes through here. I do believe this right-of-way right here, somebody has a carport that, if you go on the Google Maps, their carport actually extends into the right-of-way. So again, when people want to take care of alleyways, right-of-ways, the easements, easements are not the city's or whatever. Same way with right-of-ways, people are using the right-of-ways, that's still your property. You're responsible for that property edge of pavement. But also alleyways, people are beginning to use this as a normal day-to-day use. Aurora Street alleyway. Here is Aurora. Aurora Street right here, and this is Randall. Okay. The alleyway I'm taking is a picture. So I'm right here. I'm taking a picture this way. This is City Hall, and I do believe this is the library property. And so right here, this is down through here, people are using it as their day-to-day parking lot. So do the city maintains people's day-to-day parking lot? I mean, this is where we get to the point is like, and I can't explain it anymore, is that people are using it for day-to-day use. Again, alleyways are technically not day-to-day use. Again, this is a picture of right-of-ways, so you can see it. You can see, again, what right-of-way do we maintain? Do we pick and choose which right-of-way and stuff? Okay, now we're going to get to the bar ditches and, again, more right-of-ways. You can see this is mooring dove. This is a alliance right here, a drainage ditch. Again, the property owner is responsible, should be all the way to the edge of pavement. So do we maintain this one, or do we when other people maintain theirs? So which ones do we pick and choose to maintain because somebody doesn't want to? And frankly, that's what it is. And then we can go through here. So here is Cheyenne Trail. I'm looking north. The right-of-ways and the easement, we got a sewer easement right here because there's a sewer line. So technically, probably all the way up to this tree, most likely there's an easement. So if you want us to take care of this property, we'd have to come probably all the way to this tree and mow this entire property right here. If we take care of people's easements, drainage ways, and right-of-ways. Same way right here. Here is another one. There is a telephone box right here. So there is an easement right through here. Again, it's a public utility easement or right-of-way. So do we take this person's property right here and then take a city mower and start mowing and maintain this right-of-way and easement because there's a sewer line that runs through here? I mean, again, where do we pick and choose? And then, same way here. Here's more bar ditches and drainage ways. These people maintain theirs, and so again, here's another one. These people maintain theirs. We would have to come back all the way back here, and again, that's if after we spend a lot of money doing surveying to find out actually where the easements and right-of-ways, because there's no defined line, because you can see one of these pictures, look at this right-of-way. I mean, there's not a defined right-of-way throughout the city. I mean, every location throughout the city, the right-of-way varies, even loops around houses. So suggestions like whatever other city is that you're responsible to mow to the edge of the pavement, and you're responsible to mow the drainage ditches and your bar ditches and easements, that because you own the easement. The utility company only owns the product that's underground or above ground, and the easement only allows us access to maintain those specific utilities, not the property.
Okay. Carvin, what if for the people, if for the easements, so if they do start mowing it later on, for the ones up to the easements, how can I say this? For the people that are mowing it, if they want to purchase all of the land, can they do that?
They already own the land.
No. So like the ones.
The easement, the person you own, if the easement's on your property, an easement, you own the easement. You own the easement. Easement is your property. Okay. Only thing that the city or the public utility owns is the item that's in the easement. You've given the grant, or whoever had that property prior to, gave that utility company the right to put their product in the ground or above your ground. Okay, so that utility company is only responsible for that product, not the land itself.
Those bar ditches in my well, the property owners own the bar ditches. On your deed, it's showing it's showing the edge up to your easement. Okay, you still own the property all the way to the street. Okay, it's like I own the property all the way to my street, but the easement on my front yard comes all the way to my porch. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
I also think there's some confusion between the two words right-of-way and easement. Easements we own. Right-of-ways are not, they're set out differently as far as ownership. It might be a right-of-way for a road and it belongs to the city. So those two words are not interchangeable. They have different meanings.
Yes. That's why I was doing those definitions and all that stuff, so people could see.
Right. So if it's a right of way, and we're talking, is the alleyway a right of way? Probably. Then it really belongs to the city, even though it may be being encroached for private use.
That's not necessarily true. A right of way is essentially an easement that gives the city or the public the right to go over the property. It's just it's a variation of an easement.
You can say right-of-way easements. A lot of people say right-of-way easements.
Right-of-way easement they're not different.
So whenever let's just use the original town of Rome. So whenever it was platted, did it not have right-of-ways set out for roadways?
Again, a right-of-way is just another way of saying an easement, usually. In other words, it's given the public the right to pave over that area and make a road out of it if they want to, or put gravel or asphalt or whatever they want to.
So then whoever paves it is responsible for the maintenance of that?
Of the concrete or asphalt or the roadway that they put on there.
And so then that is why you're saying to the edge
of pavement, yes.
Right.
And every city requires edge of pavement.
And we have several different kinds of subdivisions in our city, and we have different histories on how they were dedicated to the city or not dedicated to the city. You know, the oldest Old Town of Rome was given to the city or dedicated by the railroads, and they used a different process that doesn't exist anymore for creating some of those roadways and alleyways. So we have historical issues that we have to deal with that's different than, say, some of the more modern subdivisions wherein the developers dedicated those roadways and easements to us in a different fashion.
So is there some complication where when we have actually built buildings that have been bought and sold over the years, that's have actually encroached on these right-of-ways? I think there's some.
There is roads that are actually on people's properties. I missed that. I thought I put that slide in there, but
Mhm.
where I just recently put the Virginia where it turns to Hickory. If you look at TAD, the property across the street on that corner, on that north corner, that property, that's actually their property where that curve is. So what's happened over the years is that road, horse and buggy or dirt road, they just dropped the street in there. That's why you have none of your right of ways or your roads match the easement. And so it's wherever that technically somebody had a dirt road one time, they put pavement on there.
There's a road that's in.
There's a road
There's
right in
a
your
road.
property.
Yeah. So I mean, because I live in Old Town
Yeah.
Rome, and so that's the reason why I say that, because it's only my house. That's so.
Do I need to take a bulldozer or anything?
No.
Okay. I
It's
just
where
wanted to make sure.
it's where.
So
No,
it's my
where the
right of way
ice
and road,
house
right?
is. It's where the ice house is. So no, but yes, so it's a little different where I'm at.
Yeah.
So we're complicated then.
We are very complicated. Yes, Rome is.
Well, I mean, once again, I go back to, we have all these definitions. We have all of these big towns that have probably deeper pockets to survey and have clarity. And so I hear what you're saying about using examples of bigger cities, but we are not a bigger city.
But so those other big cities, those have personnel to be able to maintain it.
I hear what you're saying.
Again, I put some calculations and numbers. I mean, you're talking about at least 2 more employees, a truck, a trailer, a couple of mowers. I mean, you're talking an extra $200,000 a year for personnel and equipment to maintain these properties.
So do you have anything that you're thinking about where we're going to have to compromise? I mean,
again, that's going to be y'all's decision. Legally, I'm not going to get on somebody's property unless unless I have permission and they tell me it's okay.
Right.
I mean,
I'm not in favor for the alleys. I think if for the alleys, there's too many, like he said, the cars, there's people parking on the cars. My neighbors, for instance, they use the alleys to go to their homes. That's the only way that they can get to it. And if they're, for instance, my neighbor, they need the emergency vehicle has gone over there. That's the only way only way that they use to go in and out of it. So I am not in favor for the city to maintain it. So that one, I'm not in favor for the city ever to maintain the alleys.
Well, I think the way that the ordinance, I think Sean has pointed out very poignantly the challenges that we have, and every neighborhood is different, even within Old Town Rome. And so the approach to the ordinance was looking at best practices. And when you have all these variations, it's like, okay, what can we say? Well, we can say, okay, the owners just go ahead and maintain to the pavement, edge of curb. I mean, that is an easier blanket to require than trying to discern all the different variations and come up with 101 different rules for, all these different properties. So that's why staff took the approach that they did.
95% of the citizens maintain and do what they're supposed to. I mean, maintain all the edge of the property because they want their property to look nice all the way. It's just, a few that don't.
You're just talking like the citizens that have the bar ditches in the back of their home.
There's some people that have bar ditches that do maintain it.
But you're like the ones that are in Crown Point, but there's also the ones on the back side of Crown Point that we went and looked at when this first brought up.
The back side of the Crown Point's a totally different situation.
But totally different situation, but it is still theirs, where their fence could be moved.
Oh, yes.
So that one I've went and looked at when this first was brought to us.
And you're talking the back of Sterling, just for clarification.
Yeah, back of Sterling. So I went and walked that myself. So,
again, these are just some more pictures of right-of-ways that, I know people don't want us to mess with. This telephone pole right here, you see where this telephone pole is right here. So this right-of-way technically is just 2 feet from this people's house. Do we take a city mower and mow and weed eat against these people's property? And that's what, the area concerned really are. And again, this is the drainage area. But again, nobody wants us to maintain. I don't think they want us to maintain all the way to their house. But again, we also don't have the personnel or to do that. Again, people won't like the way we would maintain it either. because we have to maintain it, which makes it where we're not doing it every week. So, I mean, again, because that's costing personnel just to mow people's yards. And again, this ordinance I'm presenting is a best practice ordinance that other cities throughout the state of Texas and our region adopted. You know, again, it's not a new ordinance. I mean, if you probably come from Fort Worth and all that stuff, you probably mowed all the way up to and edged your curb. You edge your curb, you edge your sidewalk. That's just normal process. Yes.
And then I want to ask him a question.
You can ask him any question.
No, I don't want to ask him a question. So let's just say we accept this, move forward with this, and then we've got folks that won't or can't. And so does that then put a larger burden on our compliance officer?
I don't know if they're pretty, because again, the people that are not complying now are still not going to comply. I mean, if they refuse to, but now we have an ordinance that enforces that ordinance. I mean, it's not going to put any more work on him that he already has.
Well, and it makes the ordinance clear. I mean, one of the challenges for staff is, as you know, you've asked us to be updating the ordinances and the outdated things that are there, which are still rampant. We've been making progress, but so it makes it easier to clarify this is what the ordinance says versus being ambiguous and unclear.
I like the ordinance as you have it. Okay, I agree with it. I do believe we do have some exceptions. And the one exception that comes to my mind right now is the one in Crown Point. Because when you look at the aerial view,
I don't have it there. I just got this.
Okay,
Yes.
There's a view of it right there from the board's house.
Yeah.
There on Sterling. And you can see Chris removed the rocks.
Yeah.
And he would maintain it with his lawnmower. But when you look back, it is way over 12 inches all the way until you get to Michael's property at the other end. Okay? They don't maintain it. I mean, I've never walked back there, but I'm guessing they don't even have gates in their fence to go back there. So
Some on Sterling do not.
you're shaking your head.
That was one of the questions I was going to have. So for this one, for instance, are homeowners going to be required to put a fence in there to be able to get to this ditch to be able to do it? Or are they going to have to go to the sidewalk, walk all the way around, and then walk through other people's property to get to where they've got to mow their property?
All I can say is their fence. They can put a gate on it. It's their property. They can do what they need to maintain their property. There's not rocks all the way through. There should be on the way you do rocks. Riprap is like every 200-300 feet. There's maybe a line of rocks, and so the whole thing shouldn't be filled with rocks. So again, we can maintain, and we have maintained the rocks. We've maintained this past winter. There were a couple of trees in there that have fallen or something like that, and because it stopped the flow, we can go in there and move those large obstructions to help that drainage, and that's what we did. We also moved some rocks that were out of place and moved those out, and to maintain that positive flow. That's the goal of the city, is only to maintain positive flow. But if you look here, this is the flow I have here. There's several obstructions in it, large, something like that. That would be something that would be a positive flow. But if you look right here, that's not a flow. So we have to maintain this in order to certain areas that the flow line is right here. Again, consider that that land needs to be so. I mean, again, piece of private property. Because it's being put down private property.
What about the house that's on BC Rome and Dogwood? That one that I'm throwing that house in there. The one on the White House that's for sale on BC Rome and Dogwood. So it's not south, it'd be north. The White
I don't know
House.
if I have a map or anything.
No, but that one has bar ditch. So then you would have to mow that one if we're going to throw these in there too. if we're gonna throw this one,
Again,
because
this is-
that's a large bar ditch.
Yeah, again, this is where, again, the people are responsible, all, even the bar
Right, they
ditches.
mow it now,
Yeah.
but if we're gonna throw in a large bar ditch, then that one's gonna be put in there too. So that's what I'm saying, if we're doing large bar ditches.
Yeah.
So,
Again, you know, this is the same, this is Alliance Boulevard. I do believe this is Dakota, or Daytona, whatever. These people maintain their bar ditch, but the person just 200 feet to the north doesn't maintain their bar ditch. It's not a very significant bar ditch either. So again, where do we draw the line? I mean, I don't mean to be frank and harsh, but we have, I mean, you put city personnel on private property. If a rock hits on, we shoot if a rock hits somebody's window, then there's insurance. I mean, again, we're getting into somebody gets injured.
I understand, and I don't have an answer.
Yeah.
I just think in terms of health and safety.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the reasonableness of the people that live there in Crown Point to actually keep that, just the flow line mowed or clear, frankly, I don't see it happening. Okay, no matter what ordinance we pass, then the only other option we would have would be to cite them. Or maybe we go in and mow it, and then we send them a bill because we had to mow it because it was over 12 inches. I mean, we need to find some way to find an exception. I tend to use the words health and safety, because when Michael was telling me about when he doesn't keep it mowed, that he has cats that like to bring him rats and snakes. Okay, and he doesn't much appreciate his cats bringing him all those rats and snakes. He keeps it mowed. He doesn't get the presents.
And when we get to health and safety on our end, our health and safety is flooding. It's not rats and snakes or unsightly for the city to maintain that bar ditch. It's maintained is to prevent from flooding. And however, high grass doesn't prevent flooding because it'll just roll over. So I mean, that's where I mean, I'm at your direction and whatever. I just want to make sure that my employees are safe and will not receive any repercussions.
So what I would like to propose is I'd like to make a motion. We accept the ordinance as you provided to us, but then I would also ask that we investigate some future amendment to that ordinance to consider health and safety and potentially addressing exceptions like we have there in Crown Point.
Well, Sean, I want you to go ahead and address alleys. I think we started looking at alleys.
Okay, yeah, we'll go back to
alleys. Do they belong to the? I have a alley behind me. I've maintained it. Wished I didn't have to. Got to go around the fence and around. I maintain my half. There's also a large sewer clean out that. Oh, it's on.
I second.
Oh, okay.
We knew that before discussion.
There was a motion and now there's a second, so now there can be discussion. That's what happened.
She's making this legal.
Oh, okay. Well, hey, you know, I thought the alley always belonged to the city.
And this is where
I mean, I kept it mowed just to keep it out of my yard, but that doesn't mean everybody on that alley does.
If I could take a picture of every alley, then we'd be here no longer than we are now. We're looking at pictures, but almost every alley, people are using it. Somebody in that alleyway is using it for their storage shed, or they don't have a fence there and they're using it as continuous with their property in their backyard. And so people have now used almost every alleyway in the city as part of their property. And so again, it becomes a private use, and so that person then now actually assumes the responsibility of maintaining that alleyway.
At the end of the day, you have to look at your deed. Your deed will.
My deed is so old, it probably doesn't even have drawing on it.
There's only a sewer again. You said there's a sewer, maybe a sewer manhole back there. Or
right,
something
big
like that.
sucker.
Again, if there's an easement back there, the city's only responsible to maintain the sewer line that's underground, not the top of ground. And so this is where you got.
They wouldn't have to weed eat around the top. They would or would not.
No, again, you're as
and it's not right behind my property, but it's in that alley.
Way the law, some determinations that is that the homeowner still has responsibility to maintain the top of ground of an easement.
even though if it's not on my deed that I own it.
If people, again, this is where the legal stuff is at. If you're getting, if people use it for private use, or if you're, again.
This is not
Yeah.
particular, for whatever
Again,
reason, that
yeah.
alley's not.
I would have to, we have to look at your specific location, but again, is there access to that alleyway? Can we get to that alleyway because people already blocked it off to put vehicles in there?
This one is clear, you could get to it had you have a
So
need.
we would have to, again, have a complete survey of the city, seeing where everybody's property ends, and or look at everybody's deed and all that stuff to determine what it is. That's why, again, most cities, I mean, almost all cities, say that their each responsibility is to, especially on alleyways, is to the center line of that alleyway. That's why we're adopting this ordinance, because it's best practice what other cities require, because again, people use these alleyways or whatever to use as their personal access or property and all that stuff. Because we can't split hairs on what it is, so you just make one ordinance to cover the whole city, not just specific areas of this house.
Yeah,
or this
and
house,
I
whatever.
understand that. I'm just saying
Yeah.
that it is there. It's been there.
Yeah.
Well, I've been in that house for 60 plus years,
Yeah.
and the alley has always
Always.
been separate from the property.
Yeah.
In the same way with the people
Yeah.
that live behind
But I don't
us.
know. So again, the picture of, I can go back to this picture right here, where you can see the outline right here. Technically, this is somebody's property right here, but you can see where the fence is outside of the property in the right of way. So I technically don't know if your fence is on your property line or not, and so, or if your property line extends beyond that location. So that's why.
Supposedly it is, but
Yeah.
who the hell knows?
Yeah,
you know?
again, this is why cities pass ordinances says that if the alleyway is, you're responsible to the center line of the alleyway. Same way with keeping debris and dirt clean all the way to the center line of a road a lot of times. Cities also require, there's city of Fort Worth and some other cities, I think it's Fort Worth, the sidewalk require you to maintain sidewalks. So if the sidewalk is broken, you're actually technically responsible for replacing that sidewalk. Now, we're not doing that, but because of the right of way, other cities do require that. And so, I mean, we try to make it fair but not harsh, but, there's got to be somewhere we got to land, and then at least the starting point, and then, like you said, we can come back and look what we can do, but then there's also, we have to do the legal to transverse that section.
And Sam has a motion out. Sam, repeat that since I've chatted in between.
My motion was, would you like to read my motion? Leanne, did you write it down?
My understanding is that you made a motion to approve the ordinance as presented with the recommendation that in the future it be reviewed to make exceptions for certain areas.
Correct, thank you.
Yes, sir.
And Michelle seconded. So we're going to now call for if no more discussion, we'll be calling for a vote. Okay, everybody in favor?
Aye.
Anybody against? Hey, Sean, you did a good job.
Thank you, Sean. Thank you, sir.
Okay, we'll move on. We will move on now to item N, discussion and potential action regarding a temporary construction and permanent grading easement for Quick Trip. Cynthia, that's you.
Yes.
Speaking of easements.
Yes. Thank you, Mayor. So this is, as you guys know, Quick Trip is being on the southeast corner of BC Rome and the northbound 287 service road. There is a hill, and so they know they're going to have to do a lot of dirt work. And there's going to need, this is in non-engineering terms, although we do have our engineer on the line, there's going to be a retaining wall because they'll have to do a lot of dirt work, cleaning that all out. And there will be a retaining wall that will basically have posts that go into the back side of this property right here. And so that's what this easement does. It gives them the accessibility for the construction and then the permanent grading easement. The engineer has reviewed it, Carvin has reviewed it, and recommend moving forward with it. But if you have questions, Kyle Weldon with Kimley Horn, are you on the line if they do have questions for you?
Yes, I'm on the line.
Okay. So if there's any questions, he's here. If council has any questions.
Anybody want to ask Kyle anything while he's on the line?
I'm looking for the picture in our packet. Just a moment. I do have a question. On page 95 of the packet, is it Kyle?
Yes, sir.
Would you look at page 95, please, sir?
Yep, I'm on it.
Okay. The picture that I'm looking at does not give me sufficient detail to understand where these retaining walls are and where they're going to be. And would you walk me through this picture, please?
Yeah. So basically, let's focus on where the Quick Trip building is. Do you see that?
Yes.
Okay. And then immediately next to that, there's a gray shaded area. It's a rectangular strip. Do you see that?
Well,
it's on the opposite side of 81 to 87.
Yes.
Sorry, rectangular with a dog leg in the middle? Is that what you're talking?
That's the proposed temporary easement. And then will become the permanent maintenance easement there.
Yes, and the only portion of the easement itself that exists is you can see the property boundary there that makes a small triangular clip, and that triangular clip is all there is that would be easement on the city's property. But the retaining wall it runs along I'll try to get my bearings right.
And Kyle, refresh my memory, we were going to get a meets and bounds description of the exact location of the proposed easement to go with the document as an exhibit, weren't we?
That is correct. So this is not the formal easement document. There would be a meets and bounds description that would accompany the ordinance / easement document that would be attached to it that identifies that area. This is really more representative.
I do. Thank you. Now, on that easement, Kyle, I believe that there is a stone wall that's going into that easement. Is that right?
So no, that's incorrect actually. The retaining wall would be completely on Quick Trip's property.
Oh, no. I'm not talking about the retaining wall. I'm talking about the existing structure has a stone wall that goes around the school property.
Oh,
that there is a stone wall, and when we were talking about annexing in QT said that they would do what they could to maybe not preserve the stone wall, but anywhere they needed to, they would give us the stone, so that for historical and architectural purposes. Are they going to preserve that stone wall when they put that retaining wall in?
So I can't necessarily speak to that. I haven't seen final construction plans for this yet. But I believe the majority of the stone wall is closer to School Road there, and it really shouldn't impact very much, if any, that.
Chief Fitch, that's right on the back edge of your property where the fire department is, right? That stone wall is still there, correct? Um, right. Cynthia was just clarifying to me just exactly where that retaining wall would be. And it doesn't cross over where the stone wall is. I just want to be certain that the stone wall is preserved.
We can add language to the easement document if you want to approve it tonight, subject to my adding a paragraph that they will use their best efforts to preserve the stone wall.
I'd like to go ahead and make that motion with what Garvin just said. To approve the easement.
You have to understand now, and I'm going to let Kyle jump on me if I'm wishful thinking here. That stone wall may not be preservable. I mean, they're going to have to go and dig a trench.
And I understand that. And as you said, make best effort.
Okay, as long as you're willing to accept that, then I can add language to that. It is negotiable. They'll have to agree to that change. If they will agree to my proposed language, then you can go ahead and approve the easement tonight, subject to that. And then Kyle and I will probably have to get on the phone with their engineers and maybe get some pictures and make sure we understand exactly where that wall is.
That sounds perfect. Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the QT temporary construction. Let's now.
Actually, that just needs to be authorize the city administrator to execute the proposed easement as presented.
Okay, so do we want to authorize the city administrator to negotiate and go forward with this? Yeah, I'm just waiting. I thought we do get to vote on that, don't we, Carmen?
Yeah.
Okay. So we will now call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No. So we go forward. Okay. Now we are moving on to. Let me get to the right page. To item D, discussion and necessary action regarding city property, facilities, and next steps, scheduling citizen forum post-bond election. And I have asked Cynthia to consider, and maybe we could have either a workshop or an open meeting of some kind to invite not only the council, but also the general public, our citizens, to come and offer their innovative solutions. And that's one of the things I would like to see done. What are some of the other things that y'all want to see done?
If I can jump in just real quick and make sure, from a legal standpoint, it doesn't matter what you call this gathering. If a quorum of the council is present and you are deliberating public business, that will be a meeting that has to be noticed, and you'll have to comply with the requirements of the Open Meetings Act.
Right, and I think we can do that. We've had a lot of people that have expressed they'd like to try X. X may not work, but let's listen and see what might be out there. Anybody else in line?
I agree with you. I think that we ought to have an open meeting. That's probably not the proper word, but I think that's exactly what we need to do. I would like to give whenever we give the notice to talk about that there are 4 key things that we need input on. One is which buildings are we going to use that we already have or not, and if we're not going to use them, then we need to lose them. We don't need to keep the upkeep on them, the insurance, the maintenance, all that is expense to the city. We're not going to use them, then we need to also have a plan to do something else. And then we need to consider parking. And then the last thing, of course, is the financial aspect of it. So I just would like the general public to know that a comprehensive plan or input is really the practical thing that the city council is looking for. And so if they would, just give consideration to all of those pieces, that would be very helpful to us as we hear what they want to suggest.
And in as much as we only have one meeting in December, Cynthia, do you think it would be possible to schedule this maybe early December? Or what's your gut feeling on how long it would take to get it set up and advertised and all the proper stuff?
Well, the only concern, and we can do that in December if you guys want. I mean, the only concern I would say is we're getting into the holidays, and are we going to get the most people here, or would it be better to have it maybe the first part of January, so people are done with the holidays, they're not traveling, and they would be more likely to attend? That's the only thing I would say.
That certainly makes sense.
I like January because I think it's a fresh start in what they plan for the city. I'm open to, a town hall meeting to see what the voters turned out for, because they were fully against it, which I'm excited. But I think a town hall meeting, to hear what they plan for the future of our city. And if there's anything that we need to hear from them, as well as in businesses, what they want to see, and what they want to, want us to do. And hopefully we can do that as well. Sam?
I think that if the vote had been close, then I think the process of let's figure out what we can do to keep the fire department and police department intact would be good. But the vote was overwhelming, and I feel like the citizens spoke very clearly that they don't have any respect or desire to keep the police department or the fire department because of the conditions in which they're asking the police and fire.
Okay. No, let's don't go there, Sam. Let's just talk about.
I'm making proposals as to what options are available.
Okay. Get on, please.
Because to me, if we get rid of the fire department and the police department, because we're asking them to work in squalor, okay? And the citizens had an opportunity to provide them a beautiful place, a safe place where they can work in safety and grow.
Guess what,
and
Sam?
The citizens, I have the floor, please. Thank you. I'm thinking the citizens, again, spoke overwhelmingly that they don't care about our first responders and what kind of working conditions they have. But yet, I stop and think, what happens if we do get rid of the fire department and the police department? And that leaves us with public works, and that leaves us with people to take our water bills and sewer bills, right?
Well,
and that really doesn't leave us with a whole lot more, because now we have no need for municipal court. And what do we have? Well, now I understand why Public Works has its own accounting system. Perhaps we need to just spin off Public Works as its own entity and disenfranchise or disincorporate or do away with Rhome. Because if the people don't want to pay the taxes to take care of our employees, because face it, we are a company that has employees, and we have a responsibility to provide a safe place for our employees to work.
And Sam, I think that's why we need to maybe have a workshop, whatever we're going to call it, quickly and see where we can go, what other ideas might be out there. I don't think you see the citizens want to get rid of anything. I think what we look at is how to make it better for what we have. And there may be some ideas that would come forth. It may have to be stepped in.
We have had analysis of these buildings done, and we use current construction prices and estimates, and those prices only go up, okay, for estimates for how to fix and replace
Yeah, and I
these
think we
things,
all realize
and
that.
we can take the price of selling every asset that this city owns. We can sell all the property that this city owns, and I don't believe that we're going to touch the money that it's going to take to give these people a safe place to work.
Well, let's
Okay,
schedule the workshop,
It's going to
and you
require
can.
a bond. It's going to require extra taxes. People are going to have to learn to live with it, or we should do it without them.
Well, and
We should
that's
find
your
a way to do
opinion.
without police. We should find
That
a way to
is
do
your
without fire
opinion, and
department.
we appreciate that. But let's go on and try to get a workshop set up.
And I've asked Cynthia to get it, for tonight was on is to get appraisal for this and all of the buildings that we own. But Sam, stop being negative. There's 4 of you that wanted the bond. You could have asked the citizens. The citizens did not want it. There's other options that you could have presented to them. And I'm speaking. There's other options you could have presented to the citizens on a different scale if it was possibly the old city hall that they might have wanted, if at all possible. But they did not want your big municipal complex. They didn't want it before. This is the second time around, and I've asked Cynthia, did it cost us like it did the previous time, the $250,000 that we lost with quorum? I still have not yet to get an answer. But when we do our town hall meeting, whatever it might be, we'll figure this out. They did not want it, just like myself. But you and the rest of you could have sold it to the citizens and maybe have gotten it passed if there was different options. But it didn't. But we're not here to argue. We can argue another time about it, but quit being negative. If they want to leave us, they can't.
I'm not
But
being
I don't want
negative,
them.
Ashley.
Yes, you
I'm merely
you are.
providing
Okay,
an
let's
option
move
for the
on.
future.
I'm not arguing.
The
Elaine's had her
citizens
hand
don't
up
want to
for a
pay
long
the
time.
taxes, and I'm
Yeah.
providing an option where they don't have to pay the taxes. I'm not being negative. I'm trying to be realistic.
Okay, Elaine has the floor.
No offense, Sam.
I take it.
Okay.
I know there's a lot of passion on both sides, but part of the political process is everybody up here gets to work, and everybody out here, including myself, we just succeed. So for those passion on both sides, let's just let them work and let's not go on the meeting rules of the meeting.
Thank you, sir. Elaine, go ahead.
The election was a way for people to speak, and they spoke, and that is part of our responsibility as a city council to, even though we came up with a plan, it was not accepted, and we got to move on here. We have stuff to do, and that's part of our claim to fame in this entire county is the negative, crappy stuff that is out there. Every place that we go as a city council, I can tell you that's what we hear about first. And so it's not just you being negative tonight. There is a whole passel of people that want to focus on the negative and want to twist and turn. We cannot move backwards and try to rehash this deal. We cannot do that. Now, we have the opportunity to all get together, to brainstorm together, to use factual information. And I'm telling you, the city council has spent 3-4 years trying to get to all of it. We've worked hard, and so it didn't work out. But there was also an element you may not have thought about, and that is that there is a big bunch of people that loved those buildings. They loved them. They wanted to try to find a way to save them. So we've had 2 bond elections. Both of them failed. This time it was very clear. And the point is, sadly, for those people that have a love and of this historical part of the school buildings, we're probably not going to be able to save them. And so we tried because people said they wanted them saved. And that just didn't work out. So please, please step up. And yes, I'm emotional. I've had a really rough day today, but I ask each of you to ask yourself, what can you do that's a positive thing? We are at a crossroads here. We need to put our energy into. We need to listen to each other. It may not be perfect. It may not be exactly what you want it to be. It may not be exactly what any of us want it to be, but it's all about compromise, and we have to focus on safety and health, our employees. We can't ignore those. But the fact of the matter, it was overwhelming, and the rest of us that tried to make it work many times now, twice at least, we've done the best that we could, and we've been told 2 times, get off of that box and get on to something else. And so that's what I challenge the rest of the city council to do. It's our job. That's what we were elected to do. That's what we said when we took our oath that we would do. And so I'm just challenging every person, whether you're a citizen or whether you're in the city council, to step up and let's make this work, and please cut the crap.
Elaine, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry for us arguing. I apologize. I want to stay positive as much as I can. So I apologize for any negative. You shouldn't be drug into anything. So trust me, I stay out. I'm brought into Facebook because sometimes if it's guilty by association, and I read it, but I hate it. I hate that we are known for it in this town. And it is embarrassing. Sometimes I do not even say that I live in Rome because people say, oh my goodness, you live in that town. And there are some people that sit up here and stuff, and it is humiliating. And I wish that we would not go backwards.
Well,
and we can move forward. So
let's go this way.
Let's do it at our town hall meeting. And thank you so much for what you've done.
And I
So,
think,
appreciate
ladies, you're speaking well. Let's go ahead and let Cynthia find us a date and get back to us. And we need to put positive stuff out on Facebook about this upcoming meeting. We want to encourage everyone to come, and everyone that comes have something to offer. We can go forward positively on the thing. So, Cynthia, the job is yours. We're going to move on to P. And Sam, this is yours. Discussion and potential action concerning election reform.
This one is trying to go extremely positive. Okay, I hope everybody understands the spirit of this one. Many, many years ago, there was a comedy movie put out called Brewster's Millions. And he had to spend a lot of money, and the way he did it was he ran for office. And he ran for office, and there were 2 people on the ballot that nobody liked. Okay? I stop and I look at how many times I've cast a vote, whether it be federal, state, municipal, but I ended up voting not for someone, but against someone, because I wanted the lesser of 2 evils. Well, in the movie, Richard Pryor addressed the point by calling himself none of the above on the ballot. And my first question is to Carvin, is it legal? Is it just flat legal to put an option on the ballot so that instead of we vote against people that are on a ballot, that we have a third option that says we don't like those options. We want to vote none of the above, and then force a new election where those people can't run. So first question is that even legal?
No.
And the attorney has spoken. So
there's no way we can say we don't like the options, give us more.
Maybe we should do this in executive session if you want me to give you legal advice. I mean, if that were a candidate's legal name, then it could be put on the ballot that way.
But
if you're talking about the bond election, no.
I'm not talking about the bond election. I'm talking about this coming May, City Council Place 4 is going to be up on the ballot. There could be 2, 3, 4 names, and the people voting for City Council Place 4 say, I don't like any of those yo-yos. I don't want any of them. I want to vote none of the above.
That is not legal.
It's not legal.
No, you have to have a legal name that we can validate their residency and that they're otherwise qualified to be on the ballot.
You can't give somebody an option of saying no.
The closest I could do is you can have a write-in blank.
Okay.
Okay, we have settled that one quickly. And guess what? It's time for us to consider future agenda items.
Water. Water bills. Water.
Okay, water bills,
Sewer, sorry.
water, sewer,
My
whatever.
mind's wastewater. Sorry, I'm ready to get out of here. You got it. I'm ready to
Anybody
go.
else have anything to consider? Josh, did you have something to consider?
No. Future agenda, but there's also something I got to talk to you about too, but that's not here. But
Okay, does anybody want to make,
That's up to the council if you want to put it on the agenda. So that would.
I'm
Are
sorry.
you, can I ask for clarification? Okay, are you talking about like the winter average, which we actually have talked about? But is that what you're talking about, or are you talking about just discussion regarding the sewer rates? Winter average.
yeah. That and there's some other.
Yeah, we've talked about that in the past, but that's fine. That's what I
Put
need
it on.
clarification on.
Yeah, put that on there.
Okay. You want 2 things or just the winter averaging?
I don't know. There's been so many people that's yelled at me, so just put both of them on there.
Put both on. Okay. Anybody else? Well, now we need somebody to make a motion that we
Motion to adjourn.
Right. You know. We'll now call for a vote before everybody leaves.
Aye.
Yeah. I'm going to vote. Okay, for the rest of the
Well, everybody's welcome. That's my privilege because it wasn't on the agenda and we have a quorum. We cannot do it. No, let's talk.
Yeah. We don't let them participate unless the presiding officer. She lets them.